So I don't want to put fear in your heart about this. The only thing I want you to be fearful of is what's going on when our young people start idolizing these things, start having posters of them. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. You can go online now and you can get shower curtains with Edward Cullen, the teenage vampire from Twilight's picture, giant, like this big on your shower curtain. You can get him on your underwear. You can get him anywhere. This guy is the most popular, sexy vampire in history. Now, we're going to look at this novel a little bit. It's important to understand that the church, some churches, are using these books with their youth group, as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk. To me, this is quite bizarre. But you know why? Well, here's two factors. Number one, in the plot line, Bella, who's the heroine of the novel, she's this teenage girl, and I won't tell you the whole plot because it would take too long, but essentially she's this only child whose mother has been divorced, and she's traveling around with her baseball player new husband, and so she's come to live with her sheriff father in this little town of Forks, Washington, which just happens to be the town that has the most rainfall of any city in America. And believe me, there is really a town of Forks. It's now become Vampire Central, by the way, thanks to her books. But anyway, the Olympic Peninsula is a temperate rainforest, so it gets an amazing amount of rain. So anyhow, she meets this guy, and there's chemistry, as they say, Edward, and it turns out he's a 110, 105-year-old vampire, I forget which, but he looks like he's 17, because the stick of vampirism is at whatever age you were turned into a vampire, you're stuck there. Like in Interview with a Vampire, the two vampires in that story actually turn, I forget what age, a 6 or 7-year-old girl into a vampire. And so she's this creepy little 7-year-old girl that murders people. And at one point she gets so tired of her long hair, she cuts it because she thinks it would make her look older if she had short hair, and it grows back instantly. Because everything when you're a vampire supposedly heals instantly, including your haircut. So anyway, they get together, passionately fall in love, but they wait until marriage. So it's pro-chastity. The other thing is after they marry, she gets pregnant in a dismayingly short amount of time. The baby is like growing like this because it's a half vampire, half human baby. And everybody's worried that it's going to be a monster and that it will kill her. And so they want her to abort the baby. And she won't do it. So it's pro-life. And because of those two messages, these things are being pushed in some Christian churches because it promotes chastity before marriage and it promotes pro-life. And I have nothing against chastity. I have nothing against being pro-life, believe me. But, as you'll see, there's a lot wrong with these books. Now, parenthetically, before we continue, it's important to note that the lady that wrote these books is named Stephanie Meyer, and she is a devout Mormon. As some of you may know, Mormons are very pro-life. They're very pro-family. Other than believing in having a lot of wives, they're pro-chastity. So, but I'm not doing a talk on Mormonism tonight, so sorry. Save that for another night. Well, the fact that they're pro-chastity and pro-life are excellent biblical values, there's a lot of bad stuff in these books. The Apostle Paul writes against doing or promoting anything evil that good may come of it. That's Romans 3:8. He also tells us in 1 Corinthians 15:33, be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. You got to realize, these books make becoming a vampire so appealing and compelling. Impressionable teenage girls, which is the primary audience, I mean, like 80% of the people who read these books are teenage girls, cannot help but being drawn into this seductive image. Now, here's the deal. Bella is self-described as kind of clumsy, awkward, like a lot of teenagers. She doesn't think of herself as being very pretty. And it makes her, because I don't want to spoil the books for anybody, but by the fourth book, she's turned into a vampire. And she becomes this graceful, gorgeous woman instead of a clumsy, plain girl. Vampirism promises her that she will live forever, indestructible, young, and beautiful. Now, what young girl wouldn't want that? Now, if vampires were just fantasy creatures, this might not seem so alarming. But, contrary to what many Christians think, vampires are to a degree very, very real. This is not about a young girl fantasizing, oh, I want to be a fairy princess. Because in reality, there aren't fairy princesses. This is about a girl imagining being turned into a real creature of Satan. This is about a girl with this fantasy being able to touch base with vampire internet sites with a couple of clicks of her mouse. Because believe me, I did this the other day. You just hit Google, you type in vampires, like 500 bazillion vampire sites are out there. Some of them, of course, are about fan fiction and whatnot. But a lot of them are about real people looking to touch base with you, looking to reach out and touch someone with their teeth. Now, when I read the books myself, because I did research, I read all 4 of these books, unfortunately, I could feel myself being drawn into this. Now, mind you, I do have a little history with it, but still, I'm a mature Christian. I mean, I've been saved since 1984. I've been doing deliverance on people since 1988. Anyhow, how much more would an adolescent girl be drawn into these things? Because, again, they're young, they're impressionable, they don't have a really good sense of who they are, a sense of what their selfhood might be. That brings us to the next thing. There's some serious emotional concerns, over and above the spiritual ones, in these novels. Bella is not a good role model, in spite of her chastity, in spite of her pro-life stance. For example, once she falls for this Edward guy, it's like he's the center of her universe. She has no life beyond him once she falls for him. He's like a drug to her. It's a kind of idolatry. I mean, she is utterly absorbed with him. At one point, she says he's like the sun around which she revolves. Her family and friends all recede before him. I mean, she lies to her father. She lies to her mother, who are in separate states. I think I kind of explained that, but anyhow, her friends are totally gone, practically. I mean, they're like peripheral once she's got him. Also, she's a weak woman with very little ego strength. She thinks nothing of herself, which is not uncommon for a child of divorce. But it's not good. And in the second novel, something happens at the beginning of the book. They're having a birthday party for Bella, and she gets a paper cut opening up a present. And one of the members of this family, quote-unquote, vampire family that Edward is in, the Cullens, is a fairly... Oh, I should explain something. The thing that makes these novels more palatable is that all the main vampires in the novel are vegan vampires. What does that mean? Well, that means they refuse to drink human blood. They refuse to kill anybody. They go out and they hunt game. They'll bring down a stag or a deer or a bear or something and eat animal blood. They're moral, good vampires, so that makes it okay. But this young guy in the Cullen family is fairly new to this abstinence lifestyle, if you will. And so when he smells and sees the blood dripping out from this paper cut, it's like, ah! And he almost attacks and kills her, just